All right, thank you very much for being here for an interview today. And today we're going to be talking about one of the major at Rutgers Business School. And I think that it's going to be very exciting for you guys. So yeah, without further ado, could you briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Janice. I'm currently a senior at Rutgers Business School studying supply chain and marketing. I will be joining IBM as a consultant post-graduation, but I've also had a bunch of other supply chain experiences before that. And I also like to make 3D art in my free time, so that's like a little hobby of mine that I like to do on the side.
Wow.
And yeah, that's just like a quick, short intro about myself.
Okay, yeah, I think it was pretty cool. You said you're doing supply chain management and marketing, so you're doing double majors?
Yes, I am doing double majors. I actually dropped marketing recently this year, but I've pretty much taken all of the marketing classes, and I also do a lot of marketing work and stuff on the side, so I still kind of like consider myself as a marketing major.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I guess it's just a couple courses that you're missing out
Yeah.
to get the marketing
Pretty much.
major degree. Okay, but I don't think it matters that much as long as you took a lot of courses for marketing.
Exactly. Yeah, for Rutgers at least, for our school, I genuinely think like marketing, honestly, if I'm like giving my truthful opinion, like they're all things that you can learn like on your own. Like there's nothing about marketing that you can't learn on your own if you just try it yourself. So from what I've seen and like the classes that I've sat through, it's so much better to pursue like what major you want to do. For example, like for me it was supply chain, and then something like marketing on the side that I can do and not have to pay money for. But yeah, I still love marketing equally.
Okay. Yeah, so do you think you can briefly explain about the supply chain management major?
Yeah, so supply chain is a very big umbrella. So there's a lot of things that go under supply chain. There's like direct supply chain and indirect supply chain. So direct is like what you might think about when you think of supply chain initially. It's like, oh, sourcing the materials, like for this like glass, like it's like you source the glass, you source like the people who put the cup together, the retailers and the manufacturers, like that's like direct. And indirect, which is more of what I do and like more experience that I have in, which is like you indirectly source other types of manufacturers like marketing or IT or things like that, or like HR even. So yeah, like supply chain is like a huge umbrella, and I fall under like indirect sourcing.
Oh wow, okay. So how did you get to hear about the supply chain management major?
Well, I always knew that supply chain was a really big major at Rutgers, but I never really knew what it meant because it's like kind of embarrassing to ask when you don't know. So I was in a program called Road to Silicon Valley that one of my mentors was president of before I became president the next year.
Oh, wow.
But like she was a supply chain major, and like she was telling me that basically you work with every function in a business, so from finance to legal to HR, and I thought that was really cool because as much as I love marketing, like supply chain is really where the strategy comes in and like the bird's eye view in terms of like strategic like alternatives and like actions that you take like in a business, like your role specifically. So I was really drawn to that, and so I gave a shot at supply chain, and then I kind of like didn't look back.
That's really cool. What are some of the skills that you found or some of the skills that you learned after taking a supply chain management major?
So I would say there's two types of skills. There's hard skills and soft skills.
Okay.
Hard skills is important, so you will learn that through Excel, like Microsoft Office, all the like the Google suites, things like that, but companies mostly use like Microsoft Excel, and also other tools and softwares that are very popularly used like Tableau, Power BI, or SAP. And so those are the hard skills that you will learn like on the job or through clubs at Rutgers. And the soft skills that you will learn are like very like communicative, like emotional skills, like communicating, like sending emails, like email etiquette. Literally supply chain, 90% of the job is just sending emails. Yeah, so like
I didn't know that.
Emails, like communication, like managing relationships like through work, and also like through clubs if you're involved in any like business clubs, things like that, or even like non-business clubs equally. So yeah, I would say those are the two like types of things that you learn from a supply chain major.
Okay, that's very nice. If one of a student asks you, what major do you recommend if I were to be in school, would you recommend supply chain management as one of the major?
Yes, I totally would. I think for Rutgers specifically, BAIT is always a good option. That people normally like to pair it with something else, but for BAIT, like you get all the foundations, and then you can like pair it with something else if you really want to, just because it'll give you that boost. And I think supply chain is also like a very solid option because there's so many different types of supply chain that even if you don't like one area, if you don't like indirect, for example, maybe you might like direct. And if you don't like supply chain entirely, I mean, you could have worked on a supply chain team for a finance team, so you could also move into finance or even marketing or legal, like law, if you actually wanted to. So supply chain is super nice for like stability, but also for learning other skills. And like if you figure out that you don't want it, or if you want to leave supply chain, you've already built up the skills to go into something else if you really want. Yeah, so it's a great like starter major to learn skills and also, you know, figure out what else you want to do.
Yeah, that's very nice. Let's talk about like networking, because I know in business school like a lot of people.
Networking.
Because networking is important in business schools, right? And as I interview like even people outside of business school, I realize networking is just important in general in life.
Yeah.
So I just want to hear like how you worked on your networking skills in business school. Yeah, could you share some experience?
Yeah. First of all, I really hate calling it networking because I just think it's so cringe. But yeah, you're totally correct. Like it is very important. But I think really what it is at the end of the day is just like making friends. And I'm not gonna say the saying like, oh, like it's not who you know, it's like who knows, like that kind of thing. Like it is literally just like going out there and showing your face. Like even that in some way, shape, or form is like putting yourself out there. And I think for me, like I never thought like, oh, like I have to get this person's LinkedIn or this person. It's always just like, oh, like I show out to like a bunch of different events on campus, whether that's like business events or non-business events, and I just like kind of tell people my name, like ask about them, figure out like what our commonalities are. It's just like really making friends. But there's a lot of different like ways like to do that, because I've personally found that like just going out to clubs is the best way to do that. There's like classes and everything, but like personally when I've gone out to like clubs, it's just like fun. Like, you know, like you're just hanging out with a bunch of like random people, you like get to know each other, you meet like your friends' friends. Joining clubs and organizations, like for example, I'm in a business fraternity, so like I know a lot of people there, and then I'm also in other random clubs here and there, like Women in Business, like Holt Prize, which is like a startup competition. So just a bunch of different like clubs on campus, but also like social ones too. Like I was in Korean Students Association, like the Korean Cultural Club for a while here. Random places like Creative X, like the design club at Rutgers too. So just like random places like that, I found like is just like the best way to go about it, and the most organic way to go about it too.
Yeah, so I guess checking out into like different clubs, even though it's not necessarily related to business, it could still bring good networking result. Okay, I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, so we briefly talked about like, you know, the big overview of like what supply chain management major is like, and what are some of the routes that you can take after you graduate with the degree. So yeah, let's now talk about some of the internships that you did during college year, because a lot of internships are pretty valuable, right? You get a lot of lessons out of it, and it can lead into, you know, another connection where you can get a full-time job as well. So yeah, what are some of the internships that you did during the college year?
Yeah, so I did a bunch of odd jobs when I first started out. So my first ever internship in college was a venture capital internship. So freshman year, I was part of like an LLC at Rutgers that is just kind of like a cohort for freshmen. And through the director, who was pretty much like the advisor for the club, he reached out to us saying like, hey, like our connection here at this venture capital is looking for an intern. So I did that internship for around like 6 months, like around like a semester, or less than that, it was around like 4 months. And I really liked it, and because at the time I was very into entrepreneurship, startups, and learning what it's like being on the other side of like, you know, venture capital. So I did a sales internship there and a business development internship. And after that, I did my next internship because one of the portfolio companies that the venture capital invested in was a women's telehealth startup. And so I was really interested because I would go into meetings with them and like talk with the founders, and they were like, hey, we're looking for interns for our next semester. And so I was like, oh, like I'd love to work for you guys. And so my second internship was with the women's telehealth startup. So now I had a venture capital and startup under my belt, and after that I was like, okay, this is like, I'm heading towards my junior year, so for the summer I think it'll be really cool to have like a Fortune 500 or like more of like a corporate internship. Now that I've worked with like a VC and a startup, so I want to like try it all. And so this is where it was really tough because previously the startups and venture capitals are a little bit more like opportunity based. Whereas for this one, I sent out, at this point, 200 applications places.
Wow.
And what's crazy is like the most important thing that you can ever do is like get a referral because I landed an internship in May, so all the way at the end of my sophomore year with an internship or a co-op with L'Oreal. And a co-op is basically a more extended version of an internship. So rather than 3 months, it's like 6 months or even a year sometimes. And they basically treat you like a full-time employee. So I got an internship with L'Oreal because one of my friends in my fraternity basically sent over an email which the supply chain professors was looking for, someone for L'Oreal because they send out opportunities through the business school.
Wow.
So I sent in my resume, got an email from the woman who would be my boss, and then we interviewed, and then I got it.
Wow.
And then for the next year actually, I was supposed to be there for 6 months. I ended up working there for a year. I did a marketing sourcing internship with L'Oreal. So that was a lot of fun. And then this past summer, after working at L'Oreal for a year, I did a global procurement internship with Merck, which is a biopharmaceutical company. So I was doing more of like global procurement for their indirect sourcing and their data spend. So yeah, that's like a snapshot of my internships and like what I did there.
Okay. Yeah, what were some of the roles that you remember as being very memorable? Or what were some of the roles that you had that gave you a lot of important lessons during the internship?
So I will say I learned so much during my time at L'Oreal and Merck for different reasons. At L'Oreal, I learned a lot of what marketing sourcing was. So like I said earlier, there is different types of sourcing. You can source marketing. So pretty much like L'Oreal would reach out to third-party marketing agencies to help shoot their commercials, to plan their influencer campaigns, to plan like a new ambassador release, like anything marketing that you can think of. Companies normally reach out to smaller agencies that are specialized in marketing to help them with it. So because I love marketing on the side and doing it, I love that I was able to work with a bunch of these creative agencies because I would hear that L'Oreal is partnering with this celebrity and we are looking for a company who's going to help us plan out this whole campaign and what kind of challenges we're going to release to the public, what kind of TikToks or videos we're going to do, what ads we're going to do. And so while it was supply chain, there was a lot of marketing that was integrated into it. So that was so much fun for me to learn and learning how to organize these marketing campaigns and realizing what the actual behind the scenes of big corporate marketing looks like. So that was a lot of fun. It was very colorful. It was very vibrant, very fast paced. It felt really fun, And for Merck, on the other hand, it was for a global procurement for data. So companies, as you know, buy a lot of data, and they use data to research their consumers, to research their competitor products, to research how they're doing, a bunch of different things. And they also buy data from other companies. So like how L'Oreal was buying marketing from other specialized marketing agencies, Merck was buying data and information, that kind of stuff from other companies, data companies basically. And so I helped analyze the data that we would get, analyze it, and use that data that we receive to strategize, what is our next move? What are our products? What does this data tell us? And so basically helping paint a big picture of what we are receiving and how we are interacting with our suppliers afterwards. What is it? Supplier relationship management is a really big thing in supply chain. So how you manage your relationships with your suppliers, your data suppliers, your marketing suppliers is all really important for long-term strategies because it helps you bring down the prices in the long run if you negotiate well. And so because of that, both at Merck and L'Oreal, I think managing relationships with your suppliers was one big thing that I also learned.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we are at the end of the interview, and yeah, I think you just shared great experience you had from doing an internship, co-op. You had a specific reason why you really enjoyed being in a certain internship. You had great internship and experience so far, and overall, because now we are seniors, right? We have been in college for 4 years as well. What are some of the recommendations that you would give to any upcoming high school students or even college students?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice that I always tell people is two things. First is just explore as much as you can. This is in terms of like clubs, organization, wherever like people are, just like go there, see what's happening, like see what's poppin', figure out what you like and what you don't like, and like not even just academics wise, but like for your personal fun, like if you want to join the yo-yo club, like do that. Like I think people who have like a nifty hobby is just like super cool, and it's like it's just so it like sets you apart. And like explore as many like opportunities, like stay for office hours, like get to know your professor, just like get to know people and like what's happening on campus, just so you know like the ins and out. And appreciate that you're in college once. And secondly, I would say find a passion or a hobby to keep yourself afloat. So learning how to time manage your school and classes and clubs is something that we all learn. But I think on top of that, you should kind of like explore like what makes you tick. So like I said earlier, I like to make a lot of 3D art. I only kind of figured that out recently, but I've always like enjoyed doing art, but I never kind of like took it a step further until recently. So I always kind of like did art on the side, and now it's kind of become like my full like side hobby, which is like also a lot of fun. And it's like just like it's opened up so many opportunities for me as I explore like design and stuff. So if I want to explore more paths like aside from like consulting and supply chain, like that's something else that I could maybe do in the future. So just doing like side projects and like things to learn and keep yourself growing on the side is super important.
Yeah, I think those recommendations are very valuable, and hopefully a lot of people can take great information from this, because usually people I interview are very qualified. Those are, these people are very, they know what they're doing, right? So I hope that this information was very valuable, and one day once you get to our position, you can also help do the same thing. So yeah, thank you for being here. And yeah, thank you so much for an interview.
Of course, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
And we'll be back next time. Bye.
Bye.